Yes, people, it's Loki Man back again. Welcome to part 2 of the mythology of Final Fantasy X. This is, of course, an occult story of Final Fantasy X. Um, we're going to continue off with the video that we just left. So basically, I've been going through these subjects and going through the game at the same time. We will continue that. In this video, we will continue with the last of the underworld themes, which is to do with the far plane and the faith. And then we'll go into identifying who Sin and the Lady Yuna are. Um, this idea of the goddess and or the moon, and darkness or the monster or the beast. All right. Um, and then we'll continue from there. Buckle your seatbelts, people. This will be a three-dimensional look at the video game Final Fantasy X. This will not be the things that the average person will see when they play this game. This will be a very three-dimensional look at the game. Okay? Let's continue.
I'll talk about prediction. The guys are going to go on to their quest now, but Tidus just saw a projection of his father in the underworld. Okay, and I said that his dreams are predictive. So of course, so as you can see, people, the appearance of his mother resulted in the appearance of the Lady Yuna, and then the appearance of his father in his dream caused the appearance of Sin in the real world. This link, right, this mind link between Tidus and the dream world gets more and more blatant as the game goes on, and the game starts, it starts showing you that he has this link to the underworld and the faith, which we're going to go into, of course, before we finish with this underworld talk. But at this point, right, when Sin arrives, the game is trying to show you what Sin is, right? You see more of Sin than you've seen at this point, and he's a massive, like, sea dragon thing, which is on purpose because it's supposed to represent the great, like, Apophis, or the concept of Tartarus, or the Midgard Zolom, or something like that. You get me? From various mythologies, right? He's this massive destruction, right? And he is the direct enemy of Lady Yuna, right? Tidus is not Sin's direct enemy. It is Lady Yuna's fate to destroy this thing, okay? And we're going to get into that, of course. Now, as you can see on the screen, Sin appears in Kilika, and he's like a natural disaster. He's not even doing anything, he's just going around it. And it's just him going past is like a massive storm, right? Just the amount of chi that he's generating is just taking everything out. He's pure chaos, pure destruction, right? And the way that it's how it's presented on screen is just done so well. I have to give this generation of Squaresoft its props. Anyway, let's continue. Like I said, mythology is used throughout all of this game. So when I say that, Lady Yuna is the moon, she is the moon, bruv. So let's get into this. How does this play out in the game? After this destruction, you get to see one of Lady Yuna's gifts, which is to guide the souls of the dead to peace in the underworld. Okay? Because this is supposed to be an act of the moon. you get this amazing scene where she does this dance. Let me in fact, I'll read this to you. Right, let's get into this. Okay, so this is about moon worship, okay? The sacredness of the moon has been connected with the basic rhythms of life and the universe. A widespread phenomenon appearing in various areas and cultures, moon worship has engendered a rich symbolism and mythology. Okay? The moon is viewed in terms of rhythmic life of the cosmos and is believed to govern all vital change. The secular process of disappearance and appearance of the moon is the basis of the widespread association of the moon with the land of the dead, the place to which souls ascend after death, and the power of rebirth. Okay? The lunar governance of the cycle likewise leads to association of the moon and fate. So if you look at what we just saw on the far plane, in the far plane, the moon was visible at all times. Okay? This pearl in the sky, all right, that is representing the moon, because the moon oversees the cycles of souls, and this is also the power of the Lady Una. Of course, it's the power of all summoners, but you don't ever see that. It's visually given to you as something unique to Una in the party, right? And because all this is, okay, all that she is doing, it's giving the people a burial. And this is also in culture. This is in Eastern culture and Western culture. That's why we have graves and things. About, it's all about memories and putting the soul to rest. Literally, at the soul is at rest, not the body in the ground resting. The soul to rest. That's where all of these terms come from. Because if you don't have a decent burial, your soul is rogue and it affects your karma. Because in Spira, as they show, if Una doesn't do this dance, it's highly likely that these souls will become wrathful spirits, ghosts, and that's what the monsters are in this game. They're called fiends, and all that fiends are, they represent animals, because this is about actually how karma works as well. So if you have bad karma, you come back as an animal, but in this world, if you have bad karma, you come back as a fiend. Okay, which is this world's animals, right? Really interesting stuff. But this dance that Una is doing is directly linked to the far plane, and she is sending the souls to the far plane. The far plane itself represents the all one planet Earth, Gaia. Final Fantasy always uses these rules. It is the same concept as the live stream. It's the same concept as Memoria. From Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 9 respectively. Most Final Fantasy games have at the end of the game you go into the underworld, right? Even in Final Fantasy 8, that whole going through time thing, that it's almost like a limbo that you go to outside of time. That is like going through the underworld, because like I explained, that whole multiverse thing that is being pushed is a stand-in also for the underworld. Every time they go into the multiverse in these movies, they're going into the underworld, the world of ideas, of many possibilities. Okay, so we're now in a place called Kilika. It is the second temple of Una's pilgrimage. Like I said, all of these names have a meaning. So we're at Kilika. All that Kilika means is silk or string. Okay, well, silk, right? Because we're going to weave the story together at this point. We need to know what things are. And of course, the game gives lots of exposition at this point and builds up the rules. Okay, and there are some stupid rules. Check this out.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
It was Donna and that big musclehead man.
Yuna will be the one to suffer the consequences.
What consequences?
She could be excommunicated.
See, the most that could happen to Lady Una is excommunication from the church. Obviously, Tidus expected a little bit more, probably divine consequences, but clearly not. But let's continue with this. What is the faith? Let's let the game explain.
Just wait.
So what's in there anyway?
The faith, remember?
Oh yeah, that thing, right.
The Faith are people who gave their lives to battle sin. Yevon took their souls, willingly given from their still living bodies.
Huh?
Now they live forever, trapped in statues. But when a summoner beckons, the souls of the Faith emerge once again. That's what we call an Aeon.
All that in this room? So what's Yuna doing in there?
She prays with all her heart for a way to defeat sin.
So basically, the faith is deified man, okay? These are people that gave their lives
There was something I didn't tell
up
anyone else that day.
to Yevon or God, right? Because these guys have deified Yevon as a god. And you Yevon, like the great stuff about this game is that you Yevon as a religion tells no lies, but what they do is control your interpretation of the truth. It's done so well because what Lulu just explained is exactly what happens in this game. Like, you Yevon does come and take their souls, etc., but it's not what you think, right? Yevon isn't divine. Yevon is just getting more people to power sin, etc., etc., building upon the original faith that originally started to dream. But the original guys that went to fight sin are offshoots. They have become aeons. They are also ghosts in the machine, just like Tidus. Okay? But when they come to the physical realm, they don't come as their original selves. It's warped. It's distorted, just like a fiend. They come back as literal divine fiends or divine creatures, basically monsters that we call summons. It's really interesting stuff. But this hack, this ritualistic magic that has become this loop of sacrificing people to sin, is a hack of the far plane. I explained that the far plane is this world that exists with Earth, basically. So it's this underworld that is concurrent with the above world. Okay, what you Yevon decided to do was carve out, right? Because the underworld, just like in Final Fantasy VII with the live stream, the underworld is just thought, raw thought. Okay, the far plane is just raw thought. All of the Earth's memories. And what you Yevon decided to do was hack the system of karma by creating just enough mass of people to affect the thought forms in the dream world. And the dream world is connected to the real world, and thus, as above, so below. Okay? So as the idea of sin, karma, right? That idea is given true form as sin, right? And it is being kept together in the underworld by the thought processes of people that have given their lives to sin. Okay? I hope that makes sense. The main theme of this game, when it was being developed, was ritualistic sacrifice, and that's why I said Besaid had a dark history, because it's a place where the villagers were sacrificing the kids. That's what it was originally supposed to be. They kept the sacrifice theme in, but they made it more ambiguous, more technical. I think that was a better idea. yeah, and that Square is on record saying this about the concept was the kids wouldn't make it past the age of 18 or 17 or something like that. So yeah, um, so the concept of this game is ritualistic sacrifice, and that's what um, uh, Yu Yevon's technique is: ritualistic sacrifice in mass. So it's like a mass sacrifice burial ground, which is now the faith. Okay, like I said, the concepts in this game amazing. Now, the faith and the faith in the temples are the same thing, but like I said, that is deified, man. That is people that have, uh, um, you know, key people. They're always famous. Key people that have been given tombs that are faith, okay, and they gave up their soul fighting sin, as Lulu explained, right? But which doesn't mean what it sounds like, because it means that they literally gave their soul to become a final summon or a final aeon, or to become an aeon, whatever, right? Um, in a in a no-win bargain game with the devil, okay, and I'll get into that when we get to Unalesca and things like that. But it's either it's either destruction or you give your soul. That's it. Which one you're gonna pick? You get me? And these chambers of the faith that Lulu is, sorry, that Yuna is going to, is the equivalent of tombs in the real world. It's where the memory of a person is keeping them connected to the physical world and giving them power in the physical world. Okay, so let's move forward. Okay, because I've been talking a while. We'll get more into the moon and the underworld as we go through. But let's move further through the game. I'll explain the places and the names, and I'll get into the constellations as we go further through the video. But let's just stay on track in the game. You go from Kilika to Luca. But at this point in the game, at Luca, you should be getting a lot of things thrown at you. Like, for example, the little islands you went to, they were all full of ruins and everything. But this is the first place you go to that has connections with the church Yevon, and it is nothing like what you've just been to. And there seems to be Machina as well, right? So there's something going on with Yevon and the church, and then you meet the shady character Seymour. So since you are in the light, you also have to get the dark. Seymour is the dark. Seymour literally translates to Saint Moor, saint being a saint, and Moor meaning black or sea, right? Because he represents the sea, or the darkness, the underworld, okay? And he also, so his name basically means saint, dark person, right? And just like, so he's the opposite to Tidus. He and Tidus's actual childhood and everything are actually parallel, right? But he ends up one way, and Seymour ends up another way, but they are mirror reflections of the self, and he plays the same role as Yevon the entity. If Tidus is the reincarnation of the principle that is the son and his father, Seymour is the reincarnation of darkness, and thus the darkness is the Yevon principle. So just like in the mythologies, if Seymour is the principle that is set, he's going to job to the sun god and challenge him and be defeated multiple times, and that's what Seymour does in this game. Now, you go from Luca to Mihen High Road. Now, Mihen is Michen or Miken, right? Because it is the name Michael. N being is a prefix for Lord, like El. So one is a bit older, but they're both Shemitic to some extent. Kind of. This is not history class, but so just like El, Mikael, Miken or Mihen means he is like God. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because Mihen High Road, the law in the game, the road that this character is named after, is basically a character that was crucified. He went down this road to be crucified by the Yevon religion. Okay, so yeah, really interesting stuff. And you guys are also on a death march. Tidus doesn't know he's on a death march down Mihen High Road, and that he's being like God, walking to his crucifixion. I think these little details are really interesting, so I am mentioning them. You go from Mihen High Road to Mushroom Rock Road. And I don't really get the analogy there. It's a rock shaped like a mushroom, probably. Why would the term mushroom be used? I don't know. Probably something to do with the psychedelic nature of mushrooms. I have no idea. Or the fact that mushrooms grow under the moon. It could be many things. I haven't thought about that too deeply. I'm just taking the things that are blatant in the game. But you'll understand why I theorize it could be linked to hallucinogens and clarity. Basically, psychedelic trips that lead to clarity. So, mushrooms. So, but I'll explain. But in this scene, what we're just getting the basis of is that Seymour is here with the Crusaders, right? All the Crusaders are. If there ever is an illusion in the world or a belief system, whether it's true or false, there will always be antithesis. The Crusaders are antithesis to Yevon. So they're Yevonites, but they go against the whole fighting sin thing, this whole process, because here's the thing. The calm doesn't really last long. I mean, Yuna's dad defeated Sin only 10 years ago, and she has still been suffering, okay? It's not like Sin's just come back around. How long was Sin gone for? It's never explained, but it's gone. He's been gone. He's been there long enough that at the point of you going there, right, there's been it's just normal for him to show up. There's no, Sin's come back around in the storyline. He's just there, which means that calm could have lasted 2-3 years, if that, right? Just get a break from Sin being around like a ticking time bomb for a bit, right? So these Crusaders have a thesis that let's just try and just take Sin out. All of this going through the pilgrimage, sacrificing yourself, why is it really doing? Nothing. So the Crusaders they try to defend the people by battling sin itself when it appears, and the whole purpose of this scene is just great story writing. It's to show you that, you know, Seymour is dodgy, and it's also to show you sin as an entity, as a destructive entity, right? And it does it perfectly well. First with Killiker, and now with showing him versus nature, and then in this scene versus man, and it's free. Like, he's like an eldritch terror, a titan, right? Nothing. Like, humans are nothing, right? And it's an excellent scene. We're going to get into what sin is as a concept, and of course how it's linked to Una in mythology, right? So, but before we get into that, the reason why I'm showing you this Mushroom Road and why it's important is because, and why, of course, I have the theory that, you know, mushrooms, hallucinogen, etc., is because Tidus is about to have a trip after coming into contact so closely with sin.
I have no idea what I was thinking when I ran after Sin that day. Before I knew what I was doing, there I was, chasing him down like a thief at market. Maybe I was angry. Maybe I wanted to go home. I kept thinking of Xanarkand and my old man.
So people, this is inside of sin, okay? Inside of sin, but it's not. It's just Tidus dreaming, showing you that Tidus, his dreams are linked to A, sin, the dream aspect, and B, the far plane. Those people running around, they are souls, okay, that have just been killed. Because if you look, you will see one of them is actually Luzu, who just died in combat just there. And then you get to see the dream that is projected to Tidus, which is a dream of his father, and it shows you that his dad is literally chaos. Though, let's have a look.
What?
They say you don't practice anymore, that you're gonna retire.
Let them talk. I'm still the best.
They say you're no good because you drink all the time.
I can quit drinking whenever I want.
Then do it now.
What did you say?
You just said you can't.
Tomorrow, maybe.
Why not today?
Why do today what you can leave for tomorrow? There he goes again, crying.
Okay, so people, here's the thing, right? If what I'm saying is correct, then there's a major system going on here with Tidus, Jecht, Sin, and memories, because obviously that didn't happen. It's a memory, but it didn't happen. It is Jecht's will, right, which created Tidus as a concept, and them two have come together, and now this memory that Sin has given to Tidus just then, right, is building up Tidus' character and storyline, because all this is about is the entity of light creating a way to destroy its own shadow. Okay? Right, we're going to get into these concepts as we go through, but that's all it is. So basically, these scenes that you always get, we'll go through them. It's just how Jecht, the will of Jecht within the darkness, the light within the darkness, can galvanize the savior of the world. And Sin is literally physically galvanizing Tidus by making Tidus witness the destruction of this chaos. But then you also get what is happening spiritually to Tidus with these dreams. You will notice that there is a law in this game that when you get close to Sin, his toxins can have effect on your mental state. That's because people that get close to sin, they have bizarre psychic or supernatural dreams linked to the far plane. Okay, kind of like that. I'm sure can traumatize them. That probably feel real, which probably are real as real as Tidus is in the spiritual world. So, that is the sin's toxin. It's basically a psychic trip, or something of the sort. Anyway, that dream shows you that Jecht is chaos. Okay, is kind of not a nice man, because the thing is, right? I've mentioned this whole light and this casting a shadow. In mythology, Osiris and Set are two halves of the same coin. They both come from light. Okay, so one is the living embodiment of light and becomes the sun, and what other one is the living embodiment of darkness, because Ra, right, is going to cast light, and therefore cast that light is going to give light, and of course cast a shadow. So, but obviously, this principle of the offspring of light casts two brothers basically against each other. These polar opposites, this Castor and Pollux, this Cain and Abel, right? This Tidus and Seymour. That principle is what Jecht is. So of course, Jecht is sin. It's one of the most amazing artistic expression of the light is the dark in a video game or in anything that I've ever seen. The literal art of it all, right? It's just amazing, the concepts.
Sin is Jecht.
Yeah. For a while there, I thought I could feel him. But that doesn't mean I believe you.
Sin is Jecht. He came here for you.
So he killed all those people just for a chance to see me?
That's what Sin does. He wanted to show that to you. Do you know why?
How am I supposed to know?
So you would kill him.
So, even Tidus saying when it's revealed to him that his dad is Sin, he could feel it anyway. There was something that he could feel, which is that precognition, that clairvoyance that he's feeling from his preemptive dreams. It's really, 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 really excellently done. Okay, so we're gonna have to get into the mythological aspects and inspirations of the Lady Una, because the Lady Una is a witch, of course. She's a summoner, and as you can tell, she's summoning dead people. She's a necromancer. She's based upon the goddess Isis and the concept of the moon, and movement of souls in the life and death realm, as I've mentioned. So that's why her main function is to call upon the dead. Okay, she's a necromancer. Isis was the first Isis is the mother of witches, because she done the first piece of witchcraft, which ironically was necromancy, when she resurrected Osiris from the dead realm. Okay, so that's the inspiration of the Lady Una, right? Now this concept of the moon and the monster or the darkness that chases it goes throughout all mythology, because even in that excerpt that I read earlier about about the moon controlling souls, it's also in that same folklore that the moon is being chased by a monster, and the monster eats it and regurgitates it. Okay, and of course, at the end of the game, Una is eaten and regurgitated by sin, bringing about a new age. let's get into this more. Okay, so let's identify the Lady Yuna by her name as we did with Tidus. First of all, her name Yuna in modern Japanese means kindness, and of course that's what her character kind of is. So the play on words starts there because they weren't messing around, because um, they're not actually using the modern Japanese term for naming this character. Her name actually means night or moon. Okay, here's what the director Tetsu Nomura and character designer says himself. He says Nomura said that her name means night in Okinawan language, which contrasts with Tidus's name, which is Okinawan for sun. Right, so that's his own words. Okay, so they're supposed to be contrasts of each other, sun and moon. And Yuna is actually quite dark when you look at what they do with her, and especially for the sequel and her this thing about souls and memories. But yeah, she's supposed to be the moon, and he's the sun. Also, Yuna, of course, is a play on the word Luna in English, because like I said in the Maleficent video about the name Yuri being Lily, Yuna, so the same thing. L's can change into R's and Y's in Japanese. So because there is no lale lule lo, like I mentioned, so Yuna literally is Luna. Okay, just thought I'd clean that up. Amazing play of word, like I said, genius. So once again, the names of the characters are lining up with the actions and the mythology. Like I said, this whole thing about her being a version of Isis and the mother of demons. Of course, this links up with her being a summoner also. Right. This whole thing about Isis coming into creation, how it breaks down is like this. You have the nothing world or chaos world, the world of nothing, okay? And then you have entities formed within the nothing. And those entities that form within the nothing start to form what is the physical world. Every god, like, family tree is this story, okay? You'll have this entity that gives birth to these four, and then the two of these four give birth to these line of gods, okay? And that's because it kind of works. Like, the best way to look at it is like through Greek mythology, right? So in Greek mythology, you have chaos, right? It's easy to understand because we use Greek words and not Egyptian ones. So you start with chaos, right? That's the nothing world. That's where we get the word chaos from. Chaos in Greek mythology is an entity, right? That is a world. So that chaos, the personification of chaos, is just a personification. But what it represents is the nothing world, the world of ideas, right? From that sprung Gaia, right? Gaia is now physical things, matter, mother, right? Math, okay? Now, as Gaia, the principle of nothing, be giving birth to the divine feminine, that, of course, brings about masculine and logic. So, the acts upon the earth start to make an imprint upon the chaos world. That imprint becomes Tartarus, and Tartarus, right? What all that Tartarus is the personification of hell, right? So that character, that entity Tartarus, is the personification of hell, and that so Tartarus itself is a world within itself that souls can go to, right? What Earth is trying to do, or Gaia, is trying to cycle souls back to chaos, and chaos spits souls back out onto Earth, etc. What Tartarus is doing is creating spiritual dogma. So in the So this is why. So this is a good right. So if you've been watching this channel, I always say that Saturn is linked, or Kronos is linked to the god El, god of order, because Tartarus is where Kronos is sent to, or Saturn is sent to, right? Sitting in the middle, right? And this game is a perfect representation of that, because Yevon is sitting in Tartarus, and thus birthing in the physical world the idea of religious dogma, is giving order to the chaos, right, of all of this these ideas, putting it into order, into spirituality, right? And it has many forms. Okay, right. So this game explains that very well. Okay. Of course, in various mythologies across the world, these become the aspects of heaven and hell, or the layers of the underworld, or the other dimensions. That's all that is. Okay. So Sin himself represents a personification in the game as that monster thing, that's Sin, but he himself is a dimension. This stuff is amazingly done. I hope this is all making sense, because even the the aspect of things being a personification and a dimension, or what have you, or an aspect of a world within themselves, is actually done within the game. But let me continue. Okay, so alright, so let me just explain this, right, using the line of gods that we have established in this study. Okay, so we're saying that Tidus is Horus, so let's go from there, right? So how did Horus get here, right? So you start off with Atum Ra. Atum Ra is, as I've explained, the concept of chaos, the nothing, all things, all ideas, and this light within the chaos spawns, of course, this these four principles. This is Shu, Tif, Nut, Geb, and Nut. Don't worry about those names too much. All they represent is earth, wind, fire, and water, and collectively the earth realm. Okay, right? That's it, right? But what you get with Nut and Geb, you get the line of gods from, because they are going to create the perfect scenario for earth to be formed. But now that the earth is formed, okay, this light of Ra is now casting a shadow, which now becomes the principle of Apophis, or the principle of sin, or the principle of Tartarus. Okay, right? So this divine feminine, this Isis that is in the middle, right? She is now affected by she's now flirting with the light and the dark. So the moon goes through flirting with the light and the dark, shadows being cast upon it. Okay, because that's all this comes from, right? So of course Yuna is flirting with the light and the dark, Tidus and Seymour, right? She's also the principle of Hera. I've got a whole video on that, the Maleficent video, but she's that same archetype, that goddess of marriages. So you're going to see her with the bad marriage archetype as well, right? It's all so perfectly done, right? But anyway, continuing on, this whole thing about these two principles, this light and dark, is where you get the two trees, or the two pillars, eating the fruit of knowledge, right? It's linked to that. This is how Isis is the first woman, okay? Eve, okay? But this whole principle is linked to the dark tree, the tree of knowledge and good and evil, or Tartarus, because I've been saying his name multiple times, but I haven't said what his name means yet, right? But Yevon, of course, is means tree. Okay, um, that's why he's one of the trees. And there's another tree in this game, which I'll get into later as we go through. But um, he's one of the trees. Yevon is linked to the name Yvonne, which is linked to the name or the word Yeu, which is a study unto itself. Ladies and gentlemen, it is safe to say that this is one of the greatest games ever written. You won't see wordplay and stuff done to perfection like this, as well as the imagery that matches. With the amount of graphical fidelity that we have today and the amount of time it takes to make a game and the art style of the current Final Fantasy games, I don't think you will ever get a Final Fantasy game like Final Fantasy X for now, where I can break it down like this. Like I said, this game is a mythological goldmine. But I have been speaking for a while. We're going to move forward and with the game and the story. So after the Tidus witnesses the slaughter that happened to all the people on Mushroom Rock Road, Yuna has to go and acquire, of course, another soul. So she's going to go to Josei Temple, okay, and acquire Ixion, right? So you go from Mushroom Rock Road to the Moonflow. The Moonflow is the name of another long road that leads to Josei, and it leads all the way to this river, and then you go from Josei, and you go from the Moonflow to Guadosalam. Okay, so after you acquire Ixion, you travel the Moonflow, and you get to Guadosalam. And of course, this is where I get the theory of Mushroom Rock Road possibly being linked to the fact that mushrooms grow under moonlight, because you go from Mushroom Rock Road to the Moonflow, and this is representing Yuden, the Moonflow road. Meanhen was representing Tidus, and this road represents the Lady Yuna. The moon is now flowing. The moon is now going to flow to somewhere. So after you get Ixion from Josei Temple, right? Josei is a play on words as well. It's the name Jose, right, or Jose, or Josie, right? But it's got a D on it, okay? It's got a D before it, like the word Jin, okay? Because Ixion is a Jin. Ixion, the name Ixion is named after a character of legend. Just look it up. Linked to lightning, linked to being cursed. Every single Aeon in this game, its name is a remix of something relative to what it's doing. Just like in every other Final Fantasy game. I'm not going to go too much into that stuff, because this video will be 24 hours long if I go into everything in this game. I'm only breaking down the name Jose right now, just to let you know, because I'm going to say something else that is just mind-blowing. Just how sick, right, when it comes to wordplay and word splitting and things like that is used in this game, and the use of phonics, okay? So obviously Jose means who pardons, or he who pardons, or she who pardons, whatever. Just who pardons, right? And check this out, right? When you pardon someone, all it is to forgive, right? Or to make an excuse. But it also means to repeat something because one did not hear, right, or understand, right? Which is coming off the back of what the party has just witnessed, okay? And if you've played this game, like I showed, they just witnessed a slaughter, and the people being run by heretics, right? But the people backing those heretics is the church. Here we go with the word splitting and the sick use of words and things like that, right? Because Jose or Hos is horse, and what does Ixion look like? I'm only adding this just to let you know the intricacies of what Square Enix was doing, the use of phonics, the use of word splitting, wordplay, etc., and the names telling the story as well. Really expertly done. We need to move forward, like I said. So you go from Moonflow to Guadosalam. What does Guadosalam mean? Well, first of all, the word salam is Arabic, so let's start there. Guado means river or stream. So, and we all know salam is from the Shemitic shalom. So salam means peace. Okay, so we've got the peaceful stream, and what do you get when you go to Guadosalam? You go to the peaceful stream, the far plain. You also notice that Guadosalam itself is of course a tree. This is the other tree, because like I said and I showed in my just a minute ago, that this represent the live stream represents the tree of life, and sin represents the knowledge of good and evil, original sin. Okay, that's all what this is about. Okay,
Aren't you coming?
I do not belong there.
You're scared.
Searching the past to find the future. This is all that is there. I need it not. You'd better be going.
You're not really going to see the dead, more like your memories of them. People think of their relatives, and the Fireflies react to them. They take on the form of the dead person. An illusion, nothing else. Well, have fun.
What? You're not going either, Riku?
I keep my memories inside.
Huh?
Memories are nice, but that's all they are.
so people, as Yuna the moon passed and collected all the souls and witnessed all these deaths, she then goes, she sets into the underworld every night, and so Yuna is setting into the underworld here, and that's what this scene represents. And she sees her mom and dad, etc. Riku and Oran. Listen, you don't understand how good this game is when it comes to story writing. Okay, you notice Riku, I said, means land, earth. She is grounded. I also said that she represents the same principles as Futaba, so she's very mechanical in thinking, but she is also the trope of the principle of innocence, the maiden archetype. All of the three women in JRPGs, there's always three female party members, right? That follow the hero of light. It's a trope because they all represent this seven, okay, the seven. Now, I'm about to go into the seven, right? So let's get into this.